Hi everyone, I'm Sweet Melba. Thanks for joining me. Well, I've mentioned in my previous videos that this year is going to be my retirement year. And well, obviously, a lot of things come to mind and you're thinking about different things. But something I've been thinking about is community. And where is the community that I'm in now at this different stage of my life? Slowing down in my work, again, planning to retire this year. And my group of people that I'm around is very different. And so I've been thinking a little bit more about that. And I see a lot of various videos that talk about, I don't really have a community anymore in retirement, or my social connections are very different and less interactions and whatnot. So I started thinking about that a little bit more. And I've never really, I don't think, really consciously thought about, well, who's my community? Who's my group of people? It's just kind of always been there in different ways. But I think at this point, again, midlife, going into retirement, I'm a little more aware of it because it's very different now. And what I've kind of been thinking about really is not so much, what community do I belong to or finding a community kind of a thing, but really choosing that community that I'm in. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. So thanks again for joining me. So, as I said, I really haven't thought about, the communities I've been involved with, groups of people. And so I really kind of sat down and thought about that a little bit more. And I think the first community um, that I was really a part of that was really influential in my life was Girl Scouts. And I bet a lot of you were Girl Scouts too. So if you were, I'd love to hear that in the comments. But ages wise, I was probably 7 or 8 when I started Girl Scouts, which would have been brownies. And I was involved with that until I was 14. And it was great. I loved it, as probably most of you did as well. But it was, like age girls that I was in classes with, in the same class or, in the same school kind of a thing. And it was just such an empowering, just fun environment, working on badges and planning trips and going to Girl Scout camp, learning about different activities to try and earn the badges. And we had great leaders. I had a couple different leaders through that course of time, but fairly consistent. And one of them was my mom, and she was a co-leader. But it was just such a great experience, and I guess really a community of us. We were all, again, same age. We were learning to explore different things and planning trips together, and just again empowering and supportive, and just that reinforcement from those women leaders that we could decide different things that we wanted to do, and how would we, pursue learning that. We all didn't have to do the same badge, right? But I loved Girl Scouts, and I regretted getting out of Girl Scouts. But as we got older, it really wasn't that we weren't enjoying what we were doing and being around each other. We loved that environment. What we were concerned about was it wasn't cool at 14 to be a Girl Scout, which was really unfortunate. We all kind of thought the same thing. And I actually remember a group of us that were really good friends sitting down one day and talking about that. It was like, I think we need to move on, kind of a thing. And again, it wasn't because we didn't enjoy it, it was more we were growing up and we just didn't feel like maybe that's where we wanted to hang out. Which again, I think was unfortunate. So I kind of, regret that I did get out, but I found a way to be involved later in life. But again, I think it was, the community of, again, like-minded girls. We all got along really well. I mean, we had our moments, right? But we all got along pretty well. We've got some great stories to tell, that I still tell today. But it was a really supportive environment, fun, lots of new activities, and I just loved being in that. But again, we were growing up, and so I guess the community changes in some way. So the next real community that I remember was when I was, let's see, I've probably been in my early 20s, I guess, and I was just starting what would become my career in the nonprofit field. And it was working for an organization in a relatively small community. And the staff there was about 10 of us, 10 or 12, I guess. And we were all about the same age and we were all kind of at the same place, just kind of settling into, we really enjoy this nonprofit work and we all believed in the cause. And we had a good time. We were passionate about the cause again that we were doing and being involved in our community and trying to improve the community. And we all again kind of were in the same mindset. We were just really getting with what would become our careers for pretty much all of us. I think all of us that I know, still around are were in those fields for a long time. But that really was a community too. And we would go out after work, and the activities that we were doing and planning for the organization, the outdoor activities, the educational activities, the different events that we were hosting and whatnot. We just had a lot of fun doing that. And it was an example, I think, of a community of, again, like minded people that believed in a cause. And it was us choosing to be at that organization, and again believing in what we were doing, that really made it a community. And it was great. We really had a lot of fun. We did, as I said, we would go out sometimes after work, or we even went on a camping trip one time, whitewater rafting, which was a lot of fun. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. We had so much fun. But yeah, it was a nice community, enthusiastic, committed to a cause, and we all supported each other in what we were doing. So it was a great experience. But again, that changed too, as my focus kind of changed in my career too. So off to a new community. So I think probably the biggest community network of people that I chose to be involved with, again, it was a choice, was my professional association. And it was obviously directly connected to my career in nonprofit. And at that time, really focusing on fundraising with nonprofits. But that's probably the longest community that I was involved with. Having a career for, 29 years in the field of nonprofit work. And it was a different focus, though. It was very professionally oriented. The association obviously was, promoting the profession we were in. So it was valuable networking. I was fortunate to have mentors in that community. And as I grew and had more time in the field, I became a mentor. But it was leadership opportunities and how you got to be involved in committees and then serving on the boards and planning the different education things within the association. So it was a really nice community of individuals who were very committed to the profession, wanting to see it grow, and providing opportunities for us to become more professional in the work that we did. And so that was really important. And, committing to time for conferences and, again, helping plan different activities in the group. And I spent, again, my whole career in that group and in that community of individuals who became friends, colleagues, and again, some mentors as well. And I was very committed to that, and being a part of that. And while I'm not in that community per se anymore, I continue to be a retired member of that group. And I still attend a couple of the functions, and I always enjoy seeing the people. But and I have to say, I was very grateful too that when I retired from that particular fundraising related work, um, I was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award, which was, a surprise to me. I certainly wasn't expecting that, but it was really a great moment. I was really appreciative of that and the recognition. But again, it was a commitment, and I continue to believe in that association and promote that to new people that I encounter in the field. But again, as I retired from that work, that community really changed. It wasn't the group of people that I was interacting with all the time. And while I still have some connections, it's just not, I'm not, um, I would say, actively part of that community anymore. And I chose when it was time, for me to move on to something different. And I did do that. And while I'm still involved with nonprofits, as I, wrap up my career now this year, it's in a different component of nonprofit work. So, but yeah, that obviously was just a really influential, important community of individuals and activities that not only was significant to my career throughout, but it just really, I think, in a lot of respects, framed who I really became, what was important to me, and work, and promoting what we were doing. So it was really influential. But again, as I say, it changed too. So on to another community. And I think the other community that really stood out to me as I was kind of reflecting on this and the different groups I had been involved with, I was part of a women's service organization. And I was involved with that group in three different communities. And so it was important to me, and it was empowering women and young girls. And it was a group I was really committed to as well, very actively involved in being on the board and committees, and doing scholarship programs and events and whatnot. But a lot of the work that I was doing with the group aligned with that fundraising focus that I had. And so, I loved the group. I love the cause. I still support the cause, and I go to the events and whatnot. But I'm not a member of the group anymore. And that was hard. That was a hard decision for me, and it wasn't the group in and of itself. It was, I really was kind of moving away again from that type of work, that fundraising specific work. And so I really didn't want to actively be doing that. I love going to fundraising events and supporting them, but I didn't want to coordinate them anymore. Some of you may recognize that. Sometimes the work that you've done, you're kind of like, I don't want to do that in my free time either. So anyway, so the people became good friends, and I still see them, and I go to the different events and whatnot. But that was an important group, and uh, finding women that believed in the same causes that I did, of empowering other women and empowering young girls as they are developing and choosing interests and career paths, building leadership skills. All of that was really important to me. So I really did enjoy my time, but it just didn't align anymore for me. And so I stepped back from the group as a member, although again I continue to support the group and see the ladies. So again, it was a hard one because I really enjoyed the people, and some of you may have a similar experience where you don't you decide to leave a group of um, activities or individuals or whatnot that you miss the people, but you decide to move on for whatever your reasons may be. And so that was a learning experience for me too. But I was happy with my decision there. um, it was just the right thing for me to do. And like I say, I continue to be involved as not as a member, but as a member in the community, the larger community of where I live in supporting the cause. So that's important to me. But things have changed a lot now. Retiring and whatnot, I really don't have that community of people anymore. So, how does my community look now? So, that's kind of what I want to talk about now. So, I would say I'm really not in a formal community because of the examples that I gave. The ones that I look back on, they were more formal. They were organizational in that respect, right? But that's really not the case right now. I'm still members of different groups and contribute to different groups and whatnot. So I'm not completely, away from those, but I wouldn't consider me a part of that community. Right now, and I'd say over the last couple of years, I think the community that I've kind of been developing or curating in a sense is very specific to my interests and where I'm at right now in my life. And there it's quieter in that sense. And I'm again choosing those, right? So with my channel and learning this new skill in having a channel, I do. YouTube is something that's a big part of where I spend some of my time. Um, Not necessarily related to my channel, although I do watch a couple education channels and whatnot. But there are individuals that I follow on YouTube, and they're related to things I'm interested in. So some of you may do the similar thing. And I think it's a unique opportunity that YouTube and social media, if that case, has provided, in that I can find those individuals that are doing activities and whatnot that I enjoy. So I like following them. Different vloggers that have travel vlogs or whatnot, different pursuits and things of that nature, that I have, created, my own group in that sense, right? But too, as I said, I still support organizations in my community. So I'm seeing individuals that I've known for years in those. So those social interactions are obviously still really important, and I enjoy doing that. And my husband and I are pretty involved in going to different events and things in our community, and supporting those causes that we believe in, and spending time with family and friends. That's my community too. And again, there are choices that I'm making, of where I want to be spending my time and who I want to be spending my time with. So again, I think I'm choosing those based on my interests. I'm not looking to belong to a community, or find a community, and get involved in that, so to speak. It's very piecemeal, in a sense of a little here, a little there, and whatnot. And that's really nice. I enjoy that I have the flexibility to do that, and that I'm not spending all my time in one particular area or community of people. So for me, that really has worked out well for me. And it's slower, right? It's not, like I say, a formal community in that sense, but it's a community that I'm choosing in different areas. And again, it's worked really well for me. And I'm not trying to be involved in everything, right? I'm kind of picking and choosing again where I'm spending my time and who I'm spending my time with. And it's more purposeful, I think, or intentional, in that sense. So it's been enjoyable, and I really do appreciate that I've had the opportunity to do that. But as I've been kind of looking back at this, I've also really been enjoying looking back at those communities that I were involved with. Then how influential those were in my life. Those were all good choices too, at different stages of my life, and I'm just at a different one now. I think it's important for us to reflect on those different communities we have been involved with in our lives, and how they were important to us. And so I've enjoyed thinking about those Girl Scouts and the first organization I worked with, and my professional association, and women's causes and things like that. They were all great experiences and all communities that I love to be a part of. And maybe that's why I continue to support them in one way or another, even though I'm not officially a part of that group or that community. So I think it's all been good. So for this particular point in our midlife, right, that, I think community is not about having a lot of people around you, so to speak, right? Being involved in a big group or whatnot. It's choosing the groups that have the right people that align with where you're at in your life now. And so I think that's kind of been an important awareness that I've kind of had, that it really is choosing the right space, environment, individuals that you want to be a part of. And that may look very different from, one day to the next. And maybe you're involved in a lot of different ones. So it's choosing the right places and groups that we want to be a part of. So, yeah, I think it's kind of fun to be a little more flexible with that, right? So, yeah, I think so. So as we get older, I think we really do choose where we are. We don't just kind of fall into those, so to speak. I think we're a little more intentional in choosing where we want to spend our time. So for me right now, the community I am choosing to be a part of is a community that I am creating. The different things I'm interested in. And I hope that through my channel, I really hope to build a community here as well of those of us that, again, have similar thoughts, ideas, that are at the same stage of life, midlife, and in retirement or getting ready to go into retirement. But this is a community as well of a place that we can share ideas about the different things that we're doing, and be supportive, just like some of those other communities that I was involved with. They were all supportive, right? We were all very different, but we all had some similarities too. So again, I hope that here on my channel that I can build a community similar to that as well. So I hope that you'll join me if you feel like this is a place that feels comfortable to you and welcoming. I hope you share some of your thoughts in the comments. So I appreciate you spending the time here today. And I would love to hear, how is the communities you've been involved with changed over the years? And I mentioned early on, were you a Girl Scout? I'd love to hear comments about that. And I may do a video just on my Girl Scouting experience because, gosh, that was just so instrumental. But anyway, I appreciate you joining me today. And again, I look forward to you sharing in the comments how community has changed for you and what are some of the communities that you're finding today. So thanks for joining me. I'm Sweet Melba, and I'll see you next week for Sunday on the Porch in the house because it's snowed now and we got lots of snow. So we're going to be in the house for a little bit. So anyways, thanks again. Bye-bye. I'll see you next time.